So hello, Kate and Mandy from Love Sober. It's so exciting to get you back after our sober session.
I know. So nice to see you.
How are you both?
Yep. I've got conjunctivitis, so I've got very good lighting kind of throwing in my eyes, so I don't look quite as bad as I actually look, which is like...
You definitely wouldn't know.
No,
you do. You both look...
So if you see me like this, just say, stop it. I'm all right. It's been some tricky times, but today is a yeah.
Today's a good day.
Yeah.
And what about you, Kate? How have you been?
All right. I'm really tired today. I'm like, we got chickens.
Oh, we're so empathetic, aren't we?
You're like, right. Yeah, I got chickens at the weekend. Like, got these 3 hens, right? And we had a bit of a drama last night because basically they went missing, right? And my daughter was like completely distraught. Like she's just in love with her hen, right? We've got a hen. Me and the kids got a hen each. And then, so basically it was just really dark and we were like, we've got to put the hens away. And then it was like, oh, did we already do that? And then we're like, where are they?
Oh, no.
Where are they? And yes, we were running around the garden trying to find them. And like, I mean, I was just like, that's it, that's it. They've gone. Anyway, we did, like, there's not really a punchline to the story because thankfully we did find them behind this kind of plant pot. But I think I'm a bit traumatised. Like, I don't think I'm quite over the drama of it all.
Of all the things I thought when we was going to talk today, I never expected you to come out with that.
I just thought, I was thinking back then in all the podcasts we've done, we've had some really strange stories, but that is definitely the best one. The missing...
the saga of the missing hens.
Oh, I'm glad you found them, though.
Yeah, I know. Well, if the thing is, I might have had to cancel if we hadn't found them because I'd have been.
The moral of the story is shut the chicken gate.
Chicken gate.
No, they flew. Like I clipped their flight feathers, and they still flew out of this fucking. Sorry, I've already sworn. It's like pen that they're in.
An F-bomb in the first 5 minutes. An imposter.
And I guess that's the main thing. Maybe the moral of the story is you can never clip a bird's wings.
Oh, deep.
I love it.
Yeah,
it's metaphorical. And never having your wings clipped. You two are living it up massively at the moment with the success of your book and your new courses and everything else. So let's go back to the beginning, if you don't mind, and take it in turns to talk about your journey to sobriety, if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
Well, journey to sobriety and journey to this bit.
Oh.
Amazing. I have got to say, honestly, it's fantastic, and we recommend it to all of our members, don't we?
Yeah.
And if I get stuck when somebody asks me a question, I'm like, where's Kate and Mandy?
Thank you. It's true. I mean, we are saying that, with humour, but genuinely, there's things in there that we've been dipping into to help other people. And I think that's really important, that this isn't just for, people getting sober or people who've got sober, but people who are coaching people to get sober are going to get massive benefits from your book. It's brilliant. Yeah, we love
thanks, guys. Thank you.
But back to the beginning first.
To the beginning.
Who's going first?
Go first?
Do I want to go first? Okay. So I guess I'm trying to give a potted version, really. But I guess my sort of roots with it are a bit generational and a bit mental health. Because as a kid and a bit neurodiverse, like I had a bit of an epiphany recently when I realised that there's certain things about me that I realised that I was a highly sensitive person. I have sensory processing stuff, like I'm really sensitive, but I just thought that's how everyone was. Like I always thought people, like I can't eat in a room if the lighting is bad. And my family used to just say I was a diva, right? And
But you two are a nightmare together. That's not straight. Well, the lighting's not right.
I'm not eating that with you, Mandy.
so true. It's like how we get anything done between us is a bloody miracle, isn't
well,
it?
it's because we're kind of off. We are yin and yang. Like it was funny yesterday. We were like just practicing on, on Canva doing logos and the logos that we chose were so, personality specific. Like Kate's was like bright pink with like loads of like stuff. It was all bubble writing, very much right size, and mine was like very kind of like quite masculine and sort of structured.
You're me, Mandy.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Black and white, block, Arial 12.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, go back to
so and so I did that, and it's that cultural piece as well, I guess, as I've pieced it together over the last few years, and I've been talking about it quite a lot recently, how much of that sort of teenage journey and just it was never an option not to drink. Like, it never occurred to me. It was just that rite of passage, but I took to it. And the first time I remember that I got drunk was at my brother's. It was like an engagement party, and I just remember just sitting in the loo, and I just went, I remember the wallpaper was this kind of weird paisley wallpaper, and I went, I feel happy. Like, I literally went, I feel happy, because that was not a regular occurrence. And then I went, I'm drunk. And then it's literally, I reckon that I was so the neural pathway the size of the M1 was forged in that moment in the loo in Portsmouth in 1983. It's all glamour. And and I guess I just, I always had a thing with it, but it took me ages to piece together the cultural piece that, then I did this whole thing where I looked like I was doing all right. I think I had enough tools somehow, just about, after I left uni, I got very good at distracting and being busy and, just managing to get by, and had a good job in London. But underneath the surface was, a lot of anxiety. And I just had this big disconnect from myself, like I think a lot of people do have. And then as I got older, I was like binge drinking, but everyone else was. I was counting my units and thinking, well, I should go to the gym rather than drink wine, and it all looked it didn't look that bad on the surface, but underneath I was really, really struggling. And that's what I think happened. It was really like the surface of the pond, to use another bird metaphor, was fairly sort of, smooth, and underneath I was paddling, and I ended up having to paddle even harder and harder and harder. And then I guess with motherhood, I always say that was an unholy shock to the system, and that sort of exacerbated, my world sort of narrowed as a result of moving to a new area, moving away from friends, and deciding that we didn't have any support, so I was the one at home. My husband was working really late every night in London, and just it just sort of became the go-to for a lot, like commiserating, celebrating. And I just feel like I sort of ended up, again, I was counting units, I was watching units, so it didn't look like, I didn't look that different to a lot of the mums around, but I was really, really struggling, and I think I was very lonely, and it just was feeling awful to me. So it's almost like, the other piece of it is quite odd, because I was like really into health and nutrition and yoga, and yet then I would go and binge drink and smoke loads of fags. And it was like this real opposites. And then, so I think when I became a mum, the chasm sort of widened as well, and this disconnect, this bits of me that weren't fitting together, that didn't really make any sense, it just widened, and it became more and more and more difficult for me to kind of cope with myself, I guess. And so luckily I'd gone to the doctor a few times as well. I'd gone to say, look, I'm just not feeling all right about this, and I'd gone to Adaption. I went to like an alcohol counsellor, like just going, this doesn't feel right. And each time they were like, well, count your units. Why don't you count your units? And it was like, that I didn't have the vocabulary to say that is the problem. This is the prison I'm living in. This is a mental health nightmare. And it's awful. Like, I was just like, because I just thought drinking was normal. So I didn't have that perspective. So yeah. So then I found Soberistas, 2013. And that was the piece that was like, it didn't scare the living daylights out of me. I connected with people I blogged for the first time. And, you know, that's where I met Mandy. You know, and I stopped, and that was really that was my first stop, and that was for 13 months, and then I thought I was fine, and I did that back and forward for a bit, and then I stopped, and then I realized I didn't have the self-care piece. Like, I'd managed to stay sober, but I didn't have the mental health tools, didn't have the self-care tools, I didn't have the what next, I didn't have the love sober. I'd sort of had the get sober and hang on to sober, but I didn't have the stay sober and love sober bit. So that was the next bit of the journey, and I think about 4.5 years since continuous now from that.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's amazing. Can I just tell you something that you were saying, Hen? And this is complete, well, it's now off topic 'cause it was ages ago, but you've just really reminded me of something from my youth where I used to go running with a friend, and at like half-mile to mile points, stop and have a fag. Not even joking. It's so
that's hilarious.
what the hell? I mean, that is like smoking and exercising, and then there's smoking and exercising.
Kate said that you know, you was drinking and smoking loads of fags. It's like looking at you now, I just can't even imagine you.
So weird, isn't it? I always find that about sober people. It's like, you can't imagine it now at all.
Yeah, and the highly sensitive person, I relate to that a lot as well. It's weird. I'm having tapping. Yeah, I am.
You're doing
Do you call it?
tapping.
I'm doing tapping.
Yeah, the EFT stuff.
Yeah, I'm working with a lady called Katie, and she's fantastic. But she actually said to me this Friday, have you ever done the highly sensitive person test? So that's something that I'm going to do this week, because she said it and explained it to me. I was like, maybe I really am. So
Kate's story as well about the wellness and the health. You were running a wellness group while you were going out and getting sloshed.
Yeah, it was massive as well. It was like massive. Every Saturday morning I was going in telling people to be healthy and live a wonderful lifestyle after themselves, to do self-care, to eat well. And then literally I would finish my group, go home, throw my stuff in the conservatory, open a bottle of wine and get blitzed for 2 days.
Do the group blitzed.
That only ever happened once. I went in after no sleep and I never did that again. That was awful. Talk about that.
It's quite common though, isn't it? I think that with women.
Oh yeah,
because we've been told that it's that sort of self-care piece, and it's fine. You know, it's fine to have that goes with the gym. You know, gym and tonic. You know, it's that.
People realise just how common it is, because I'm saying that about Lisa, but actually when I lived in Cyprus, drove to work, teaching in a classroom, very hungover, probably still drunk. And nobody, they must have known. Looking back, I must have looked bad, smelt bad. They'll have known I drove there. And and that's not just in Cyprus, that's anywhere. This is nobody's challenging anybody for their mistakes or behaviours or whatever you want to label it. If somebody had said to me, hang on a minute, this isn't right, nobody else is doing this, maybe I doubt it, but maybe I'd have stood up and thought, a lot sooner than I did. There's some issue here. In honesty, I'd have probably said, piss off, I'm doing what I want. But in honesty.
And it is part of the process, I think. So for me, I mean, we've talked about this, haven't we, man, that, when you enter that period where you're starting to question your drinking, it's sort of like your pre-contemplation, aren't you? They call it pre-contemplation to contemplation. And it's very normal to look outside at that point. So what you do is you check your confirmation bias. It's very normal. Let's check the herd. Let's see what the herd is doing to get a gauge. And that for me went on for ages. It was like, it doesn't make any sense, it doesn't feel right to me, but I had no confidence, you know, in that relationship with myself. And it was like constantly trying to get feedback from the outside world of a normative drinking culture that was telling me it was just fine, and it literally, but internally it wasn't fine, you know.
And that's what I was going to say, when you grew up like we did in the pubs, and that's all you see.
Yeah.
There is no other normal. There is no other normal.
Yeah, and I kind of had that opposite sort of thing, like living in France, where it's like everyone else was sort of seemingly doing another behavior, and I was like, well, they seem to be able to do it, but I can't.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, well, like if I must try really, really hard, because it's like it's so different culturally. So I knew that like being drunk as a female in France was very badly seen, but at the same time, like everyone was drinking, and I was just like really confusing. And I was just like, well,
Yeah, but it is. I bet that was a bit like, you know, why am I the only one who can't get this right, wasn't it? And you kind of gauging yourself on a whole different culture and society.
Yeah, exactly. A whole different kind of developmental kind of culture, education around alcohol. You know, it's like it's very different when, you know, because you see there's very much a protocol of like, you know, sort of one drink with that meal, one drink with another meal, then it's like there, and then it's coffee, and everyone's having coffee, and I'm like, I was like, I want coffee.
Yeah,
I'd have been having a liqueur coffee.
And what I used to do, but then there was that other side, was that, you know, because it had always been quite cool, and it was something that my husband liked about me, because it was like, God, you're not like other French girls. You know, he liked that I don't really wear makeup. He liked that I was a feminist. He liked that I was kind of, you know, had my own mind and wasn't prissy, if you know what I mean. So I would be, there was that sort of thing that like, so all the girls would be sitting around going, oh, with their cups of tea. This is so stereotypical. Like, really nice women. But I would be like with the lads, you know, all the men drinking cognac, you know, and smoking and stuff. So it was like that thing of like, yeah, this is really cool. And it's like, it's actually not. It was really cool until then I couldn't like speak and had a blackout. And so anyway.
Which is kind of the way it goes, isn't it? So do you want to talk us through how you got to blackout point then, Mandy, before you gave up?
Oh, blimey. Yeah, I mean, I guess I started drinking pretty young, you know, like 13. I was always quite naughty kid. Like I definitely wasn't very secure in my own self. So I was always kind of searching to be liked, like always kind of never satisfied in my friendship groups. I was always like, right, no, like, oh no, I think they're a bit cooler, like see if I can hang out with them. Like I always had shit loads of friends and always managing loads of different groups, which is actually like a skill now. Like I'm really good at networking and I can pretty much get on. But anyway, I definitely didn't have that kind of that sort of secure sense of self as a little kid. And I didn't really have any boundaries. I didn't really know what boundaries were, so I was always pushing, you know. And I think because my parents had quite difficult, you know, childhoods, they're amazing people, super loving, super kind of committed as a family, but I found it quite sort of exhausting. And also I didn't know where the limits were, because it was like I could just get away with stuff. I was basically quite feral as a kid. And like and so just used to sort of run riot really. And then, you know, started smoking really young, started drinking, started doing drugs, like started just going to festivals. I don't know how, I basically just lied a lot. I mean, I was, you know, I'd go to raves and come back in you know, the boot of people's car, random people's car, like so much dangerous stuff at like quite a young age. Going to festivals when I was like 15, going away for, you know, sort of 4 or 5 days, not sleeping and all that sort of thing. Had kind of some pretty traumatic experiences within that time, which I'm not really up for chatting about today, but, you know, a lot of trauma. And then just kind of put it in a box and, you know, put it away really. and was just like, right, I'm not ever going to talk about that stuff, and then hoped it would go away. And then we moved to, so then I kind of, quite pretty heavy kind of hedonistic sort of 20s, lots of, you know, clubs, pubs, parties, dinner parties. Then I met my husband, who's French, and then it was very much like dinner parties, lots of kind of big weekends. We had this great flat in Brighton, and it was massive, and people would just come and stay. And I mean, I always used to think it was great, because I'd send off my friends, they'd all be like, you know, puking, like, bye Mandy, and I'd be like, yeah, like wicked sort of weekends, you know, and wonder why they didn't want to kind of come back. But I thought it was really, you know, I thought it was
I'd have loved that apartment in my heyday.
Oh my goodness.
You did a similar thing with shots. You used to go and get everybody shots and make them have shots. I hate
a lot of kind of enabling behaviour, loads. I mean, I was really bad for that kind of stuff, and just didn't know any different. Like, everyone drank around me, everyone was, you know, that was the scene in the 90s. It was very kind of ladette, like faux feminist kind of idea that like I drink like the lads, and, you know, had loads of male friends. And then, we kind of, I guess, well, interestingly, I met my husband's sister, and she's a teetotaler, never drank. So she was like this really kind of cool, chic, beautiful Parisian woman who drank tea and read loads of books. And I was like, so what? What? Yeah, and she'd go to festivals and she'd listen to music. She had really brilliant taste, but she never drank. And that was my sober curiosity, basically.
Yeah.
Like, hang on a second, how does this work? Because, you know, drinking made me a person I didn't really like. I was really aggressive. I was really loud. I was really, got myself in trouble. And that was when I was 24. 22, I met my husband. So sober curious since the age of 22. How crazy is that?
Wow.
And then we took a year out because I'd put on loads of weight and wasn't feeling very great, and we kind of both knew. My husband's a bit older, and he was like sort of slowing down, and he kind of wanted to sort of change. So we were starting to do like detox in January. And then we decided to take 6 months out, and so that was when I was 26, and I absolutely loved it. And I was like, wow, you know, we did loads of different stuff. We went to the market, you know, we bought loads of lush food, and felt really great. It was like, right, let's change our life, let's move to France, let's have a baby, blah blah blah. So my sobriety has always been connected to massive change in my life. And so so we moved to France, had a baby, and then as soon as I could drink again, you know, I did, because I breastfed for sort of 6 months, but I did drink when I was breastfeeding. And as soon as it was back in, it was just like became that release really from the stress. And when I had my daughter, I think a lot of my PTSD came to the surface, because I was all of a sudden, you know, looking after this tiny, fragile little girl, and I'd done so many dangerous things to myself and hadn't always survived them very well. And I was just like, oh my God, like I can't deal with, like, how can I keep her safe, basically? Like, how can I? And so I was just panicked all the time. And then I had my son like 19 months later, and then I think I had postnatal depression after I had him, because all of a sudden I was like, I loved him, and then my daughter was like, I don't get it, and there was this horrible thing going on. Sorry, this is really long. So I'll tidy it up. So basically it all sort of culminated. My drinking was getting a lot worse at that period. I went back to work, was like, yay, like, you know, I was really successful in my job, working in university. All the students loved me. So then I was like back to being that, you know, getting sort of recognition from them, you know, and so I started drinking.
You were the cool one.
Yeah, so I started drinking with the colleagues, and after we go to the bar after work, and then it was like, then I'd rush home in my heels to get the kids completely knackered, hadn't eaten, had like 3 beers, you know, strong Belgian beers, because I lived in the north of France as well. And then we would like try to manage dinner and then like have a glass of wine, and you know, so
Oh God, it's making me feel so tired.
Yeah, me too.
Honestly, to
bloody
go back to
exhausting, isn't
that, you must be like so relieved.
yeah. And my husband was working away, so he had, you know, like when we moved, he was basically away ever since the kids were babies, because when we moved, he moved with a new job. That's why we moved to France. So he was away trying to like establish his career. So he was away like Tuesday to Friday, and I was just on my own, just without, not even really speaking French, you know, with 2 babies, and just, yeah, sort of, so wine became my best mate, really. It was just like, that was my thing. And then it all culminated in me kind of having a burnout. Like I got really, I sort of, what I was doing was I'd be kind of sort of managing at home, and then I'd go away for like crazy weekends, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm back, you know, and all my, because I was sort of, I had my kids at 26 and 28, so most of my friends were still partying pretty hard, so I go for these crazy like festival weekends and then come back. Yeah, and so actually looking back now, I do think I probably was in quite a lot of danger, because when I detoxed and I was just like, right, that's it, I'm not smoking anymore, I'm not drinking anymore, I'm not doing anything anymore, and I actually sort of had a proper kind of hallucinations, sweating kind of fit. So now I know in retrospect, like I probably should have gone to be detoxed in a hospital, so thank fuck I, you know, was okay. And the next day my husband took me to the doctors, and I had to write down everything that had been going on for him, you know, so because I couldn't speak French, you know, sort of to sort of get help. So that was quite like, he was like, oh, my wife's, you know, doesn't think she should live, she thinks she's a terrible mother, she thinks she has a drinking problem, you know, she hates her life, la la la, you know. So then I went on antidepressants, and then I realised I needed to stop drinking. Then I went on Sobriety and got sort of support that way. Stopped drinking for a year, felt fantastic. Thought, woohoo! Right, I'm going to quit my crazy job. I'm going to be a stay-at-home mum. Let's move to the seaside. So we moved like 700 kilometres to the seaside. And then was like, oh shit, I don't know anyone. How can I make friends? So then started drinking again. And it was never as bad as it was. I moderated, but it was just every sort of 2-3 months I'd say to my husband, wasn't I happier when I didn't drink at all? And he'd be like, yeah, and I'd be like, okay, la 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 la, you know, and sort of did that for about 2.5 years, and then just sort of, I couldn't get back to that mindset that first year. And looking back sort of now, what made the difference was sort of community and connection. And because I'd had a little kind of network in Soberistas that first time, but because I'd gone backwards and forwards, I never felt truly in it again. And then I set up my Instagram account and started making friends around the world, and was just like, you know what, I'm done. And I read Annie Grace that time and was just like, yeah. So that's it. And so that's been like over 3 years.
So you two knew each other at that point, at the point when you opened your Instagram, you'd met in Soberistas, is that right?
Well, because when I first started, I went on Soberistas back in 2012, it was really small, and then it just went, and Kate joined in 2013. So when I started going back, I would try and find people that I recognise, and I recognised Kate's little symbol. She had like a Hello Kitty little thing, and I remember
my avatar.
Yeah, your avatar, thank you. And so I remember, like, I really liked her writing, and I remember sort of engaging with her. So I started stalking her, basically. I was like, hi, I used to be on here. Do you remember me? She's like, oh, yeah, sure, no. Like, and then she set up a little group. When was it? In December 2016. She set up a little group for Christmas.
Did an advent thread, didn't I?
And there was about 13 people, and then that's when we sort of really started chatting, and I started hard stalking, you know.
Yeah.
I really like you.
Because I have
like
my
your clothes.
sparkly hat.
I like your hat, you know.
Yeah.
I like your music taste.
Oh dear. Oh, I'm so glad you both met though.
Yeah.
Oh, thank
We
God.
hadn't actually met when we started doing the podcast. We'd never met in real life.
No.
No way.
way.
Oh my God. You see, when I met you, Mandy, at the Mindful Drinking Festival, I obviously didn't know, I'd not been that long sober, really, less than a year. So like, I knew of Love Sober because Lisa had said, follow Love Sober. You know, this is what you follow Love Sober.
I had a list of things to do.
Oh.
Been drinking ready for her. You must do this.
Yeah.
Oh.
This.
And read passage from the book. This is what you do, Alex. Kate said. So no, she basically said follow Love Sober. So when I met you, after obviously, and Simon had said to me, get Kate or Mandy or Kate and Mandy on the panel when we were going to have our live event, which is how.
Yes.
And then, so I guess, really, I just presumed that you two were like us two and had known each other your whole lives. I just took that for granted because I thought that all friendships were like that. So it's kind of new, but you're such close friends as well as working colleagues. How did Love Sober come about?
Well, I had started the blog. So I'd been blogging. I was working with a coach, and I was really trying to make I was done and this was it. So, and I knew that at that point I really wanted to work. I wanted to write a book, right? And I wanted to be sober for life. And I was trying to work out how to live with like congruence, if you know what I mean. Like I really wanted to. It's like I can't not do that, you know, when you get that thing about like when you're sober and you just know what shit needs to be sorted out. So I was working with a friend of mine called Sarah, who I also met on Soberistas, who's a brilliant coach, and she started coaching me. So I went along to the coaching academy, 2-day thing. We had no money, and I was like, I've got to do it. So I was like, okay. And she was also saying, well, look, if you want to write a book and if you want to be visible, you're going to have to come out from behind the smokescreen of Soberistas and go public. And again, this is like 2016, so it's going back a few years, and it was quite different then. It was still scary for me. And the only reason I was really scared was because of the other school moms. I thought that there'd be a lot of judgment because I live in a small town, that they wouldn't let my kids play. They wouldn't let their kids play with my kids. Like I was already having difficulties because my son is, you know, on the spectrum, and we had difficulties connecting with people, you know, on play dates and stuff. So it was that. So, but I was like, okay. And I remember just thinking I wanted to write a blog called Love Sober, because it was like I wanted to do something positive. And I remember just getting this like WordPress site up, and my husband took some photos. We went out in Brighton, and he just took this picture of me against this yellow and red wall and went, oh, you could use that for your website. And then that's where the colours came from, isn't it? We got stuck with those colours because of that photo. That became that. And basically, so I just started writing a blog, and I went pressed, and it went public. And I think then Mand was able to kind of look at the website and like the vibe. So it was literally that moment for me that I came out from hiding, and that is such a beautiful message for me and something to remember. And the thing is that, you know, that whole thing about when you, like, if you're stuck in that people pleasing, like we so often are, and we're hiding, we're trying to fit in, it means our real people can't find us. So it was a real beautiful proof of that actually being authentic and like being a bit vulnerable and going, oh my God, for a week, like I'm panicking, like we found each other, didn't we?
Yeah.
And then it was Mandy's idea to do a podcast. So she said to me, we started chatting, and she said, there's no English podcast at the time. She was listening to American podcasts. Do you want to do a soap podcast? And I was like, absolutely. Let's go for it. I've never listened to a podcast. I was like, hell yeah, like why not?
Let's do
Seems
it.
like a good idea. Like, why the fuck not? Excuse my French again, swearing again. And And so then we were like, yay. And then we were like, oh, how do we do it? Weren't we?
Yeah.
So we just started talking on Skype and trying to record it. And my husband helped us with the recording equipment.
Well, at the beginning, it was my mate Jamie, wasn't it? So yeah,
It was Jamie first,
yeah. So a friend of mine who sadly passed away a year ago, he used to be a music producer, and actually he had a very sort of challenging life, and he'd been in prison and stuff like that. And when he was in prison, he'd done a lot of kind of art therapy and a lot of music therapy. And one of the things he wanted to do was kind of, when he came out, was to sort of apologize to everyone that he'd ever, you know, harmed. And he was like my boyfriend when I was like 17 or something. And he was really horrible to me at the time. And so he sent me this message, randomly, this message sort of saying, all right, you know, I thought about you, you know, and you were always like a good person in my life, and like, and I just wanted to say sorry. And so we started chatting again, which was really nice, and sort of talked about loads of stuff, and you know, and he was so happy to be out and kind of to see the you know, blue sky, and you send me all these pictures of blue sky. So it was a really beautiful kind of moment for us, and he yeah, and so he had a track called Recovery randomly, which is the music at the beginning, and he sent us loads and loads of different tracks, and he was like, just choose whichever one you want, and so he produced it for a while at the beginning, and it was so bad at the beginning, like it would take him like 3 days of like trying to like. So apologies to anyone that listens to the beginning. Like they are as good as they could be, because it was literally like us two in our kitchens with like the worst sound and everything like that. But yeah, sadly he had a heart attack and passed away. And so then Kate's husband took over and was doing all our tech, and that was like quite stressful, because it's like within a marriage, which is never.
Oh God!
Hashtag don't get me started.
I know. So luckily now we do it on our own. Like we produce it through Zencaster, which is
Kate's like, yeah, my hair's still here.
No, literally, it was
bad. At one point, I started paying him just to try. I was like, let me just pay him a bit of money every month, like that. It can kind of manage the relationship, so there's not a divorce about doing the podcast. So. Yeah, this
Love
is
sober, hate marriage.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sober. Sorry, Dave. You know.
Oh,
yeah.
you know what? It's not the same, but honestly, the way you've set up your podcast, we used my music producer friend to do our beginning. Thankfully I wasn't married to him, mind you, or but yeah, he had to teach me how to write down step-by-step instructions on how to record the podcast, how to cut, how to edit, how to do and Lisa, like, oh, don't show me that. Show me. So that's
I can't read instructions on anything, mate.
I can't.
Mental block. It doesn't matter how small the instructions are. I can't read them.
No, me too. I can't.
Yeah, flat packs.
No.
I love a flat pack.
I know you
do.
Flat
Mandy.
Give me a set of rules. I'm happy.
Yeah. That's like
I'm like, we don't need that.
Flat pack on my own. Oh, it's like a puzzle.
I'd like to follow a method, please. Sado in the corner over here. He's so true.
So yeah, so that's how. Yeah, and so then Kate had told me that she'd been working on a book idea, and she'd actually sort of had some interest, and then she decided to sort of put it aside because the deals that she'd been given weren't good enough, and so she was like, then she sort of said, well, do you want to work on the book with me? So that was that. And so then we were like, okay, cool. And then we just sort of decided, we were like, right, let's just work together. And then obviously she was doing her coaching, I was doing my coaching.
Nothing about it. We've said this before, haven't we? We didn't have a plan for any of it. It just it just sort of happened. And I've got someone at the door. We're really sorry. The dog's going really mad.
Hey, you know what? The funny thing is, you've got a dog on the podcast.
Sorry.
Let's mute Kate.
We'll mute Kate for a second. But yeah, we always have Lisa's dog on our podcasts, and if he's not barking or scratching, he's making really bad smells, and we spend ages. You see it every now and again, I think, on the video.
Oh, it's
and you
awful.
see us ages like that going with like dodgy faces. You keep thinking it's touchscreen. It's not touchscreen.
Oh, it's because we're on your computer, not mine.
Yeah.
So sorry about that. Someone delivered something.
It's
Well,
all
yeah, no, we didn't have a
screening.
plan for it.
No.
It just seemed to work. You know, and then we were like, well, let's do some, you know, we wanted to do courses. And then it was like, I think we sat down, didn't we? And we were like, what's our 5-year dream? What's our 1-year dream? And it was like, basically it grew, and it was like, well, we want to create a space for women, and we want to do lots of different, like, it was basically provide the support that we didn't have. So be it some coaching, some courses, but you know, just all of that, and
different price ranges as well, because that's what's so hard, because it's like,
yeah, it's really
we
hard.
get it. It's like, you know, when your demographic is and the people that you want to support are mums, you know, are super stressed out. It's like they don't have a lot of money, you know, but it's like, but we need to earn a living too. So it's like, right, what can we do? How can we diversify as much as possible and try and just have something that will reach someone? So it's like, okay, the podcast is free, like the community is extremely low price, like the book, then you've got, you know, the courses at different levels, you know, and then there's kind of one-to-one coaching, and it's just trying to do, I mean, we are a CIC, so the community interest company, so that when we've got a moment next year, the kind of big plan is to go for funding, and then we can try and help people as much as possible, because it's never been about, it's, as Kate said, it's really organically grown just out of a sort of place of wanting to help, really, and do it in the way that kind of doesn't, I mean, we need to, because
you need to earn a living, but it's not the driving force.
It's a really difficult balance. But I think if you're a good person, I really believe it's like, if you've got a good heart, it will just all hopefully work out in the end.
It will do, and I think together you're just amazing. I really love the book. The same with our Sobriety.
We think you're amazing.
We were giving that out at the beginning, and people just weren't doing it the same. Sometimes, you know, now there's a charge for it, and that charge for it actually fund all the free talks that we do in the rehab centres and the podcast, everything that we do.
That's it.
More committed as well by
making a small nominal.
Definitely. So I think you've got to do it sometimes, and you've got to live, guys.
You know, and it's like, well, it's just trying to touch all bases, really, you know, like, and, you know, consistently kind of grow and look at different areas, and you know, and sort of, I mean, we're really interested. We did a talk with ICAD, which is like the International Conference of Addiction and Associated Disorders, and that was really interesting because they wanted to bring someone, you know, that's actually in with the ground, people, you know, and like they realise that there's this disconnect going on, you know, and so it's trying to just get in at all levels and just have a chat and just go, you know what, maybe we can do this, and do you really?
But it's also like looking at the 360, isn't it? It was like we felt, I feel passionately, and you feel passionately about changing the conversation, of calling the bullshit, of calling alcohol what it is, of stop, you know, like, you know, we were talking on when I was talking on Women's Hour, there was an amazing professor, Glasgow University, Carol Elmsley, I think she is, amazing, and she was saying, look, we need an independent review body for alcohol in this, you know, there are things that need to happen at policy level. So, you know, we want to get involved in that. We want to be like helping mums, but we also want to be changing the conversation and being active, so that it's not, because for too long it's just been like, you're told as an individual there's something wrong with you. And it's like, hang on a minute, you have created this monster that we're all supposed to take part in, and then you you get blamed when
you
you're
blame
like,
us,
actually
yeah.
this isn't working for me, and you get actively discouraged from get rid of your life. So it's like, okay, there's some bigger there's lots of conversations to be had here. I guess we want to provide that space for people, and to, you know, it's like that, telling stories in safe spaces. We have our individual recovery, don't we? We have our individual pathways that somehow need healing because life is impactful. There's a social conversation. There's all, and there's a brilliant conversation about, you're going to feel so much better, and this is what your life can look like. It's like,
so true.
so it's all of that, and it's all kind of exploding in our heads as we then try and piece it all together, right? I think that's a fair summary of it.
It really is. We were on BBC Radio at Manchester, was it last week? Yeah,
it was
last week. And as part of when we were on there, they'd had a doctor on before us to open the show, and like the doctor was saying, you know, well, if you've got a drink problem, then maybe you need to do this. And you know, Lisa and I were just
the
like,
doctor enjoyed a drink every night. He did say that.
well, yeah, he did. I have a glass of wine.
Yeah, it's like that.
And we're going,
alcohol neutral, is it?
it's still, no matter what work, I mean, it is going to change. I am confident it's going to change. So this isn't kind of a half-empty statement I'm making. But no matter what we're doing at the moment, there's still very much the belief that it's those people who have the issue and then the few that don't, or the many that don't, actually. That's just not reality. Most people that I speak to, first of all, they feel the need to justify why they still drink to me, even when I don't ask, which suggests to me that they've got some sort of internal battle going on, however small that might be. And yeah, we just need to blow this wide open and looking at what it really is. This is an addictive drug. And it's to do with the person taking it. It's just that some people are a little bit more predisposed to it, I guess. And environment, like you were saying, there's the social aspect, there's the trauma aspect. Make it more likely. Yeah, it's got to stop being looked at in isolation as a personal problem.
And I mean, I've been doing some kind of recovery coaching training, you know, to look at sort of on that scale of kind of treatment centers and looking at, you know, addictions pure. And it's like, you know, alcohol is one of the only drugs you can die from detoxing from. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, what's going on here that this is like the most normalized one, whereas if you know that it's, and so and also when you're looking at that place where there's no power, when someone truly is powerless in their addiction, whatever that looks like, it's like there was so many missed opportunities to catch them beforehand. Like how many times do we sit in forums and I feel a bit emotional about this, but you know, when you sit in forums or you sit in conversations and people say, I went to my doctor, I went to my therapist, and they said this, and it's like it only, for me it was very much like, you know, I live in France that has a free healthcare system, which is amazing. Like I had holistic care, I was put on antidepressants, I was sent to a therapist, I had free yoga, for fuck's sake, like I had, you know, EMDR, I had anything that I needed in terms of my mental health plan. You know, I am no different to someone that's on the streets, you know, but I just got help and I had support, and I truly believe that, and it really upsets me because it's like there's still this thing of like it's them and they're weak, or they can, it's like no, they had no support.
And I
no
think
one said what's happened to you, darling, like what's gone in your life for you to be where you are. And so I just
and I think that you know, that is, but that's you know, that I think links back to everything that we try and do with our work is early intervention. It's like that's the scary word, and making a fabulous choice for yourself when you have loads of agency and loads of opportunity is the non-scary word. They're both the same thing. They're kind of early intervention, right? Of alcohol use disorder spectrum, which at the bottom end will be dependency and is progressive. So it's like, let's work, let's have the chat earlier, I think would be our you know, is our hope and our dream, isn't it, in all of our work, and to make it fun, because like I don't want to do it if it's not fun.
Yeah.
I do it, and I don't mind doing it because there's the light in the shade. But actually, it is fun.
Yeah.
Let's have a good hour. We still need to get together, speaking of fun. As soon as
Yeah, we've got our spa
we're
time.
going out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the other thing. It's the rebrand, isn't it? It's the rebrand of sobriety. Let's see what it really is, and that's what the work that you're doing is amazing. You know, when the social club, like in Club Soda and Soberistas, and you know, like all of and Millie Sober Girl Society for the younger ones, and it's like a positive model of sobriety and where we're connected and we feel better.
Yeah, and that's it. It's like that kind of, you know, I think there is still a disconnect between kind of traditional versions of, you know, models which work for some people, and then kind of the, you know, the old school and the new school, as our friend Rose would say, you know. And it's like, let's just get to a point where it's like person specific, you know. And that's why we're so about collaboration, because it's like,
yeah,
someone might come to us and I can you know, get them on the call, and I'll be like, you know what, I just don't think we're the right fit.
We're not the right fit.
yeah.
Go and see Simon, or go and see Sober Experiment, or go and see, you know, these are the people. Go and do the, you know, like Annie Grace's, that's your thing. And it's like, let's just, rather than all sitting in different places going, my methodology, it's like, just listen to the person and go, I don't think
there's more
options. The right for you thing for you. Why don't you try this? Or vice versa, or like, you want to do the 12 steps, fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's my dream, that we can all just.
No, but we say that, you know, there's no competition in this, because everybody's offering something different, and it's very personal. It's a very personal, as a community,
really
it's a very personal experience. Yeah. So, you know what, I've been dying to rip off your end of your podcast with you two. I can't wait. I want to know what you two love about sober.
Yes.
Having, what do I love about sober? Oh my gosh, I love.
Let's see how hard that question is, Mandy. Yes.
I love being a better mum. I really do. Like, that's the biggest growth area. And not even just the patience things, like, I'm so stupid now, whereas so serious when I was drinking. And it's such a, like, you know, sort of the opposite of what you think. Like, I become so serious and so like, don't do that, do this, do that, you know, because I was in control all the time. And now I'm like such a dick all the time. I'm not sure they love it as much as I love it, but no, I mean, they do. And just having honest conversations with them. You know, my daughter's 14, she's on Instagram, she's reading everything I do. We've had some very sort of serious chats about my life, and it's like, that's freaking liberating for her to be
it's amazing.
Saying, you know what, like, whatever happens to me in my life, there's no secrets, you know. So that would be mine.
Oh, that's a lovely one. Come on, Kate.
I think for me, I felt really rubbish for a really, really long time. Like, a lot of my life, I really struggled. And I've spoken about that disconnect with myself, which was actually incredibly painful. It was a painful place to be. And so I lurched from one busyness to another, to one form of disconnect to another. I don't know if this will make sense, but I feel like sobriety literally allowed me to live. It just allows me to live, and it is the fundamental piece of my self-care, which it's everything. It's like, it literally is my connection to me, and is sacred. I don't know.
I get it. I get both of them. Kids.
You two give me goosebumps every time.
I know. I've had lots of goosebumps.
Honestly, and genuinely, from a really genuine place, we absolutely love both of you.
We love you too.
Not only as like peers in this community, but you know, we've made a great friendship with you both. You've been a fantastic support at one time or another to both of us, personally and, you know, professionally. And we just, this book, if anyone watching has not got this book,
don't lose my page.
I've been watching it about too. If you bought this book, if you do not know what you're missing, please buy this book. And Mandy and Kate, where can they find you?
Lovesober.com.
Yeah, and your Instagram?
Lovesober.cic.
Yeah, but everything really we do is on lovesober.com, and that's got links to everything else, so that's probably the easiest place. Yeah,
We'll put a link on the write-up as well to make sure people can find you. It's been lovely catching up.
yeah, thank you. I feel quite emotional now. It's like,
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it, and we'll get this one. We're going to put this one out this week, hopefully.
amazing.
Amazing.
So, yeah, thank you so much, both.
Thanks, loves.
All right, take care.
Bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye, darlings.